Welcome to Eat Y'all live tonight, guys. It's good to be here. Good to talk to you. I hope you will comment and tell us you're visiting in from tonight. It's exciting to be back with you guys on another. It's a rainy weeknight here. I don't know why I said weekend. It's a rainy weeknight here in Gulfport, Mississippi. But go ahead and send a comment. Let us know where you are, who you are. I'll do some shout outs here as we get connected here on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Who knows, we may get Instagram on here before too long. You can also take a second and tag a friend who you think may be interested in grits, in cooking, in any sort of culinary activity. Go ahead and tag your friends and give us a shout out. Share and let us know what's going on. So I'm going to give everybody just a second to get that going, and wanted to welcome you into our live stream. Eat Y'all Live is a show for people who believe that better food starts with better ingredients. And our hope is that the guests on this show, the chefs, the farmers, the makers, and the conscientious consumers who are leading the thoughtful sourcing movement, who will inspire and empower you to intentionally use better ingredients in your home or restaurant. So we hope you guys find some value in what we're doing tonight and that you enjoy your time here with us tonight. So leave a comment, let us know that you're there. And we're on a new platform. We've got a few bells and whistles, hopefully, that will roll out and everything will come together really well. So I see that Mama G has joined us tonight, and lots of other folks are jumping on Facebook. So it's good to see you, Brittany's mama. There we go. Hello, Mama G. So it's good to see you guys. We will be joining a couple of really incredible entrepreneurs tonight and hear their story in the grit world, and that of course comes from a plant called a corn. Most of the time. So we'll be visiting with some really interesting folks, and I can't wait to bring them into you. So y'all settle down, grab a cocktail if you need to, and join in, and we'll get started in mere moments. This Eat Y'all Live, by the way, is brought to you by the Farm Club at FineFamilyFarms.com, and I am told that I may have look, I've got a caption for that. So it's brought to you by the Farm Club at FineFamilyFarms.com. The Farm Club is a buying club where members get exclusive discounts on farm fresh groceries shipped straight from the farm to your door. And we just had Father's Day. If you missed that, you could still get Dad something great. There's all these different things you can get: fresh frozen meats, seafoods, cheeses, pork chops to porterhouses. You can find all of that on FineFamilyFarms.com and join the Farm Club. All right, enough about me. I'd like to welcome in a couple of guests here, and if this all works, I'm the producer. Here we go. We've got some folks from, and I don't even know how we met.
It was the internet. It was Instagram.
Through Instagram.
That's right, yeah.
We met our two guests tonight, and the first one would be Professor Torbert Rocheford. Did I get it right?
That's right.
And Evan Rocheford.
Yep.
And you guys are a really phenomenal, interesting story, and I can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty, if you will, about how y'all got started and what happened here and why the corn turned orange. So it's great to have you both here. Thanks for coming and joining us.
It's good to be.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so y'all are related. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm his father. No, I'm
He's
Torbert.
my brother. He's actually my brother.
Yeah.
There you go.
Torbert is my father. So I've known him my whole life. I've been exposed to his corniness my whole life. So yeah, it's a family business. We started the business together in 2015, and started selling the grits about a year or two ago.
and I love that you were able to make a corny dad joke to kind of get us started. And Torbert, we did not actually talk in detail about the fact that there might be some dad jokes and puns along the way.
It's fine. I'm used to it.
I don't think my kids are watching, so I won't at least get any blowback from them. But speaking of that, happy Father's Day to you.
It was a very nice Father's Day.
Did Evan treat you well?
Yeah, and I got some. I also have a son in California, and I got some really cool Mac AirPod buds or whatever.
we got him some AirPod Pros.
The Pros.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
He's a professor, so
They're very cool.
That's awesome. Well, so I want y'all to take us back to kind of the initial kind of starting point of what is I guess the orange corn and the difference in obviously there's a lot of different varieties of everything from tomatoes, apples, whatever. And grits are basically ground corn, but you guys are, and Joseph Torch says he's loving the grits in West Lafayette, Indiana. So,
Joseph who?
Torch.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think I know him.
Yeah, I figured that sounded like somebody you might know. But take us back to your research days and vitamin A and the whole kind of genesis of your studies in corn.
So I got involved in I worked with corn, and I got interested in nutritional traits because corn is largely just was considered to feed animals, and they really people didn't care much about the nutrition of corn. But in Africa, they eat a lot of corn directly. A lot of the corn in the U.S. is fed to animals, or they make ethanol out of it now. We don't eat that much corn directly. You might think so, because you know about cornflakes and grits, but it's a huge crop. But in Africa, they eat a lot directly, and they have significant vitamin A deficiencies. It's about 250,000 kids go blind or die every year from vitamin A deficiency in Africa. So you look at, I'm involved in biofortification with Harvest Plus, and what that is you look at what people eat, and then you make that more nutritious. Sometimes people say, well, why don't you just grow carrots in Zambia? Well, carrots don't grow in Zambia very well, and people aren't used to eating carrots in Zambia, but they eat corn. So I was involved in breeding for higher levels of provitamin A in corn, and that's what we eat, and our body converts it into vitamin A. And how we got involved in the U.S. is some of the administrators in Harvest Plus were talking to some Africans, and they were like, "Oh, you want us to grow and eat this orange corn? Do you grow and eat it in America?" And they said, "No." So they're like, "Well, you want us to eat it, but you don't." So I was going to grow 1 acre of corn, give some away, have a few chefs serve, maybe do a school lunch, and then if we ate 10 pounds, that's infinitely more than zero. We could say we eat it. The only quote-unquote problem was that it tastes really good. And I had some people from the South say this is some of the best grits or cornbread I ever had. So then,
they didn't say some of the best. They said this is the best.
All right, and so then there was a progression from my humanitarian work to Evan getting involved in thinking about marketing and business and things like that.
Wow. All right, so I'm going to jump into a quick Facebook comment. Susan Garrigus, a.k.a. Mama G, as we call her, says, or they go blind from bad shine in my neck of the woods, which is another, I think that's a different podcast or different episode, but the bad shine. But there are other uses for corn other than ethanol and cornflakes, I guess.
Right.
Especially in the hills of Alabama.
That's right. That's right.
Speaking of Roll Tide, her daughter's we were talking earlier about the Alabama fans, and that's a big Alabama fan there, Torbert. So we'll enjoy beating them later this year. All right, so jumping back in here. So have you been to Africa to do this?
Many times. There was a point where I'd go 3 to 4 times a year,
and
so
just constantly learning, teaching.
Well, so I work with Harvest Plus, which is an NGO involved in various crops and biofortifying them. And I was kind of upstream. I'm in the States, and I was doing pre-breeding and gene discovering and finding what works. And then I worked with breeders that are based with international research centers, CIMMYT and EATYALL, and they're based in Mexico and Africa. And so I was upstream, but I would go, yeah, and I'd love it. Africa's my favorite place to go in the whole world. People are so friendly, so nice.
That's awesome. And that so that led you to you're selling to chef. You grew some. You served it to chefs. You served it to your friends and neighbors, and even maybe some Southerners. It sounds like. And you found out
there was 2 opinions by 2 guys from North Carolina that love grits and said this is really good, and that's around the time that Evan was getting interested, and that was because I didn't grow up eating grits. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I had cream of wheat and oatmeal and things like that. But now I eat grits and never eat oatmeal or cream of wheat.
Yeah, that's funny. I grew up in Mississippi, but my mother actually her family's from Michigan, and so I had way more cream of wheat influence in my life at an early age until I started seeing my grandparents in Atlanta, and they were her parents were on the whole rhubarb cream of wheat sort of thing, but my dad's mother was really really into grits and cornbread and biscuits and all that sort of thing. So
that's good.
It was kind of it was an interesting adventure. Susan also says, so if your corn is orange, I'm sure Auburn would love it. Yeah, there's a lot of Auburn. There's a lot, kind of a hint of Auburn in that packaging. Evan, why don't you show folks the packaging? So y'all have 2 products.
Well, Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida.
And Florida, and Clemson. Yeah. So.
Yeah. These are all good teams.
Yeah, you got a lot of options there. So you guys have the grits and Evan's a little fuzzy on my screen, but if he holds really still, there we go. So we have corn flour and we have grits. Oh, look at him. He's doing his best Vanna White impression.
Yeah, well, and it's like, I'm looking at it and it's backwards, on the
screen. It looks frontwards to me. And it's if you hold it right in front of your face, it looks perfect. There we go. That's
it looks like I'm Torbert there.
There we go. Yeah. All right. So orange corn, you guys realized that it was a marketable, tasty product. Are there tasting notes that you study from a scientific standpoint of this? Like obviously sweet corn has a lot of natural sugars, and that's one flavor. And then, I've eaten field corn and lots of different things, just bit into it, and you taste different things. Was there anything scientific on the actual flavor, or was it nutrient based?
So, yeah, like there are, there is Sorry. So there are.
We're not connecting.
No, I think there's a slight lag. Evan, I'm going to go ahead and let you just jump in. I think you're a little bit more connected, and we're having a thunderstorm here that may be affecting things a little bit. But go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a whole segment of food science is all around flavor. But in terms of for us, we kind of lucked out actually. So Torbert was really breeding for nutrition, right? It was really breeding for color because in many parts of sub-Saharan Africa, yellow corn is it's looked down on as sort of animal feed. It's what's been sent over as food aid, and so there's a lot of social stigma against it. And so a lot of the desire of making it orange was actually to make it visually distinct from yellow, right? So if you look at, I got my ears here, right? So if you look at it, it's significantly darker. And so in a lot of places they're eating white corn, So it's very, very different from that. But so we really bred for color, we bred for nutrition, and then we kind of lucked out that in so doing that, we also bred for better flavor. And so people describe it as having a creamier texture, and we've actually done some science around, and we actually look at the way that it hydrates, and you can measure that, the viscosity, the response. And it does actually hydrate differently than yellow corn or white corn. And so when people say, "Oh, this has a creamier texture," there is literally, scientific backing to that.
That's what I was wondering, because when we served this at chef camps, I tasted it, and I was not in there watching the guys cook it the entire time. And look, I've been part of some grits that had a quart of cream poured in them. Okay.
Right.
Is that the creamier texture, or is it a quart of cream and, pint of butter that you put in there? It's hard to tell sometimes. But the creaminess of those grits have been something that is consistently, people are, oh, man, they're just so creamy. But a lot of times that is, even when people have just put butter, corn, and water,
Want them to be accessible, right? Want them to be convenient, but we also want to have that high quality. And I think that we found a really nice balance of, in 10 to 15 minutes on the stove, you can have something that is as creamy, if not creamier, than something that might take you 40 minutes to an hour to cook. If you're trying to, cook a more traditional grit and get, cook it to the point where it's really breaking down and getting, a creamier texture. But we've been very happy with the performance of the corn.
So, I think that's fascinating. And as people talk to us about different ingredients, and some people will say, well, I don't like asparagus, or I don't like fill in the blank. And we try to educate people on the fact that, if you don't like a Granny Smith apple, you might like one of 10 other different apple varieties, because they're not all the same, even though they're apples. And it seems like it's very similar in the grain world. We work with a rice farm, and we've seen a lot of different variations of even jasmine rice versus 3 or 4 other varieties of a jasmine rice.
Mm-hmm.
All these different properties. And so it's interesting to see kind of as those things have come out in corn,
Right.
the different properties. I want to jump back to the vitamin A deficiency thing that you guys were, or that you, Professor Torbert, were tackling when you were working with the harvest group in Africa. What does that look like now? Like, is this something that has literally changed lives in Africa because of the work you've done in villages and places?
Well, you have to be careful what you say, but it's now grown in 11 different countries, and there's people dying of vitamin A deficiency, and vitamin A doesn't only affect your vision, it also affects your immune system. And so maybe you're more inclined to get sick, and then that leads to diarrhea, and then you die. There could be a lot of indirect effects, but I'm not going to say it has saved human lives, but it will save human lives. There's no question in my mind about that, and it probably has. But
there have been efficacy studies that have shown that it is an effective source, and it can provide a meaningful amount to the diet, to affect health status. So there have been efficacy studies. Whether we can say how many people have potentially had positive health outcomes, that's a much trickier question. But it has been shown to be effective, and we do know that it's being grown in 11 different countries.
Gotcha. I've just got some folks that said they are having issues with the sound. So y'all give me 1 second. That's so it says, all right, so Calvin, guys, let me see if this is better in a second. We did have this crazy storm, just waited all day, just barely the slightest bit of rain, and then we go live on the internet across the all the world, and this happens. What would you say was the thing that really inspired you to get involved in this company, Evan? As you've done some other things before this. You were internet famous for a hot minute, and what brought you back to, hey, I want to work with my dad?
So yeah, I had started another company. It was mostly selling on Amazon, physical products, and so Torbert was thinking about doing something with orange corn. He was being encouraged to do something with it, and so my mom actually was like, "Hey, Evan, you're an entrepreneur. Why don't you help Torbert figure out what he's going to do?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool, Mom. Like, I'll help write a business plan or something. We can figure out something to do, and then I'll go do my thing." But then I just really fell in love with the product, and I remember early on, Torbert, he introduced me like, "Oh, this is my son and my first employee, Evan," and I was like, "Torbert, I'd appreciate it if you introduced me as your co-founder and CEO." And so that's how I became the CEO of our startup. Yeah.
You're of the mindset that even if there's two of us, you can be the CEO, correct?
Yeah, I'm the CEO. He's the CEO.
I like to breed. I like being a professor, and I like breeding corn.
Oh, you mean like that I'm not actually an executive over anyone?
I'm just saying, like, I put that on my business card when it was me and a secretary, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing something big, right? So, like, it's not about necessarily the size of the organization, right? It's about the size of the vision.
And you don't have to put, I'm a janitor. I'm also the corporate chef for, Mariana at lunch. And, there's just, you put certain things on there. And so how has it been, y'all just celebrated Father's Day, and I know that's a fun dynamic of probably for you guys working day in and day out, or at least, y'all aren't in the same physical spot all the time. Mm-hmm. But what's that been like working with family?
I think it's been great. I think that it's probably not for everybody. We're very close. We've always been close. I was fortunate enough. One of the things that I grew up and I started working in the cornfields, pollinating corn when I was like 14, 15 years old. I was was like, what? How the heck is all this knowledge about corn ever going to benefit me? And then, lo and behold, I started a corn company. Torbert traveled internationally and took me, to a lot of different places. I've been to Africa. I went to Africa when I was still in high school. Very impactful experience for me. And, so I think that we've always, in addition to being father and son, we've also always been friends for a long time. And I think that really makes a difference. And there's no one, there's no one you can trust quite like family, right? And so when you're, when you're in the trenches, I always know Torbert has my back. I always know that me and Torbert are on the same team. And that's really something that takes a very long time to develop, with somebody. And so I think that you kind of get a head start. I mean, you're also family, so you have that dynamic too.
Yeah. So, pollinating corn, does that involve like a paintbrush and a lot of sweat, or how do you do that?
A lot of sweat, that's for sure.
There's a lot of sweat, but we use bags. We don't use paintbrushes. Cover the.
These aren't Chinese pears that are
But see, some species like wheat or soybeans, you have to use tweezers, and it's very tedious. And I worked on wheat for my master's, and I worked on corn. And you just take it and you get like 500 seeds from one pollination. You do wheat, you get like 5 seeds, and I'm like, I ain't ever going back to wheat.
Because I know people who are out in their garden with a little paintbrush, and
Well, if you don't have pollinators, I mean, so that's the thing about it. So like, flowers, flowering crops, there's not that much pollen. Corn, I mean, it dumps pollen. So you actually have to physically exclude the ear from the external environment so you don't get random pollen on it. So then you can control which plant you're crossing it with. And that's called controlled pollination. So basically, you're getting to decide which plants, which traits and genes, not specific genes, but you're looking like, oh, this plant, this one looks pretty orange, this one looks pretty orange, let's put them together, see what happens, pick the most orange or the highest in carotenoids, and then you keep doing that over and over again. So it takes a long time, but it's really amazing at what you can accomplish through controlled pollination and selection.
And that's kind of like, you take the strongest, best looking of the crop, and you keep building, and you end up with something that's got all the properties that you guys have.
Right. So how do we get all the domesticated crops that we have? Is people selected the best looking plants, from a generation, or and then they got into actually crossing them and selecting, which is what we do. And so rather than just hoping, a population might randomly combine and give you what you want, we're actually kind of directing that sort of natural flow of development within a species.
It's fascinating stuff. And you guys, so you started with grits, mm-hmm. and now you've got corn. Is that corn meal, corn
flour? So it's corn flour. We'll probably come out with a corn meal product, by the end of the year. And so, so basically the grits are, it's larger than a cornmeal. It's kind of in between. It's kind of like a polenta grind, maybe a little bit larger than a polenta, in between a more coarse grit. I mean, it's pretty similar to just a standard grit that you would get at the grocery store. That isn't a stone ground, old fashioned sort of style. But what we've actually found is that the grit is quite versatile, and you can actually use it in a lot of applications that you would use cornmeal. And so we're selling now on Amazon. We're selling the grits and the cornmeal, 2 bags of each in a 4-pack, and that's perfect for making cornbread. And what we found is so the grits, they take a little bit longer to hydrate, to increase the liquid ratio in the recipe, and maybe cook it at a lower temp for a little bit longer. But the result is that it holds the moisture super well too. So it takes a little bit longer on the front end, but then I've eaten cornbread like 4 days later, and it was still moist. And I can't say that about a lot of cornbread. Most cornbread you eat it the next day, and it's like cardboard.
Sawdust.
Yeah, sawdust. Yeah.
Are y'all familiar with jalapeno cornbread? Is that something that is indigenous to your part of the country?
I've had it. I mean, I don't know if it's super popular, but corn. I would say probably corn muffins are pretty maybe the most common way that people would eat a cornbread around here. But I like it pretty much any way you can make it. I like cheddar jalapeno, however you want to do it.
We love taking if you get the pickled jar jalapenos. I mean, you can do it fresh, and obviously fresh is a crapshoot because sometimes you'll get some that are just screaming hot and some that are not. And
I know.
Anything in between, but the pickled ones are kind of on a bait. There's kind of
they're pretty standardized. Yeah,
you can add some of that liquid to the cornbread and then spread out some of the actual pickled cornbread, jalapenos in there, and then throw you some cheddar on top of that, and it's.
I've even done when I make my grits, I've even done pickled jalapenos, because I just have them in the fridge. I'm like, I want to kind of change it up a little bit. And I thought it was pretty good. It's probably not quite as good as if you do it, fresh. But it also depends. You might burn your face off. I mean, it's hard to tell.
So, are you going to send us the jalapeno recipe?
Absolutely, I can make that happen. And also, y'all reminded me, kind of prepping for this, reminded me of a friend of mine who's started a restaurant, or actually took over a restaurant in Jackson, Mississippi years ago, that would take his leftover grits. He would pour them on a sheet pan, and they would get about this thick. So after the shrimp and grits thing is over, pours them on a sheet pan, chills them, cut them into little wedges, and would batter and fry those. And then put some hot pepper jelly and different things on top of that. And so that was one of those fun rundown memory lines.
What else is really good is if you take the leftover grits and you may just throw the serving dish in the refrigerator, but then you slice it in the morning and you fry that in a little bit of butter. You put an egg on it. It's really, really good. So the refried grits are great.
Are you working on a recipe book yourself there, Torbert?
I think that's my mom. That's my mom laughing.
Torbert doesn't work on other things. Corn. And I love corn. I love breeding, and there's plenty others with strong opinions. I just eat the food, and if it tastes good, I say it tastes good.
I think you might be a little biased though, but it's my mom. My mom does. She kind of has our test kitchen there. So we try a lot of different things.
So he does R&D, but not the actual on the stove R&D. She brings it to him, and he gives it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Let me cook in her kitchen. Too messy.
I think you'd have to know where anything was first.
I understand that. We sometimes have a little turf war about the kitchen, but we're getting all that worked out. If you're gonna take over the kitchen, you better be good at it.
Right, and I'm not good at it.
Oh, man. All right, so guys, we often do a lightning round with chefs when we're interviewing them, and we ask them a series of questions, just kind of get to know them better, get to know their palate and their frame of reference. And the first question I ask chefs is typically this one: biscuits or cornbread? So, I know that's going to be. I almost feel like
might be a little biased.
That may be a gimme. So we should throw that one out and go cornbread or
corn biscuits. Is that what you want to answer? Or obviously, it's going to be cornbread for us.
Or cornbread or grits. Maybe that's in the corn family. Would you go cornbread or corn or grits?
Depends. What are you pairing it with?
What are you pairing it with, Andy? Is this any? Is this like life or death? Is this like you can only have one for the rest of your life, or is this just if you had to choose one?
This is you're in jail, and this is
your final meal. Yes, that's exactly where I was going.
I since I had grits for lunch, I'm gonna have to say cornmeal actually, since I already had grits today.
Oh, there you go. That's funny.
But I tell you though, we'll be working on stuff, and we'll be talking about recipe ideas and Instagram and stuff. And I'll be like Trisha, my coworker, operations manager. Like I need to go make grits. Like I can't wait any longer.
That's funny.
So I'm definitely hooked.
All right, so we'll start with you, Professor Torbert. Favorite cut of steak?
Porterhouse.
He's going porterhouse.
I like a bone-in ribeye.
The bone-in ribeye. So, okay, that's acceptable.
That's acceptable.
Favorite cheese?
Cheddar.
Honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest, it's like white queso dip is my favorite form of cheese. like Chihuahua queso dip.
But I do like Stilton, but I don't eat it much.
Oh. Do y'all get some really good cheddar from Wisconsin as far up as y'all are? Or what is your cheddar du jour?
Katie, where do we get our cheddar? Kroger. We get it at Kroger, the supermarket.
There you go. They have the Tillamook brand, I think, at Kroger and St. That's good. Hey, look, cheddar's a good thing to. Do y'all put a bunch of cheese and other stuff in your grits, or are you kind of just butter?
Oh no,
I don't usually put a lot. No.
Katie will put some in, but a really big thing in cooking grits is using chicken stock from scratch.
Right.
Katie makes stock from scratch. And a little bit of cheese. She made it for me for my birthday.
And it had cream cheese in it.
And cream cheese. We didn't have any cheese, so she used cream cheese.
It had both.
Oh, it had both. Really? That's not our usual, but chicken stock, cream cheese, and what?
And maybe we need to have Mom on with the recipe portion. We'll let Torbert scoot over.
Here's our guest. For the final round.
We'll get the expert. I mean, y'all have been hiding the expert behind the curtain over there.
Yeah.
I was trying to watch on my own, but my electronics failed. So I was sitting on the floor trying not to.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just call myself the referee of the company.
There you go.
She makes cookies, really.
Yeah.
Do you make corn cookies or are these wheat flour cookies? Oh, really?
So I, with the help of my friend who's a baker, we developed cornmeal biscotti or polenta biscotti, lemon polenta biscotti, and then there's also a lemon polenta cookie that's delicious.
It's great.
Well, one of the interesting thing about when using the grits is it gives it like a soft baked chewiness to it. And so it's not, I mean, it's denser than a regular cookie because, wheat flour rises a little bit better. But again, it's kind of like how the cornbread stays moist for longer. The cookies they're really good. I have some in my freezer. I have a stockpile from the last time I tabled.
Funny. Calvin is a chef here in Mississippi. He says Mama should definitely do this conference. You're exactly right. We finally, halfway through or here we get the professionals involved. So,
yeah, that's right.
You were holding out this whole time. You never mentioned the chef and everything. All right, so we're still going through the lightning round. We're going to add Mama in for this, okay? So, what's your favorite? Now, look, I live in Mississippi. We're kind of into barbecue. Favorite barbecue. So, would you go pulled pork, brisket, ribs, smoked chicken, or if there's something that you guys do up there, way up there, that's your barbecue favorite?
I do love to cook slow and low on my Weber. I don't have an official smoker. I think.
We had a barbecue off, and I had a colleague who was a pompous guy from Arkansas. He was a nice guy, but he thought
he's very pompous about barbecue.
I don't know. He spent 2 days doing his thing. Yeah. I don't believe in 2-day cooking because I've been cooking for 40 years for a family.
Well, Katie won the first round, but he claimed it was a cold, May day, and it just wasn't right. So he won the second round, but he spent 2 days and Katie spent like 4 hours. So he said, yeah, I won, but on an effort point, hers was better.
I do love, I can't tell you, I do love chicken thighs, barbecue chicken thighs, and I do love pork ribs.
That's acceptable. Even a Southerner will let you buy on that completely.
But I was going to try and do some beef short ribs, but the weather wasn't right, and it sounded like it was going to take way too long, so I never did do it.
Now, do you guys smoke? Do you have like pecan, cherry, apple? What kind of woods do you have to smoke on?
I usually use cherry or apple.
There you go.
That I just buy at the grocery store.
We got some friends. We have a windstorm come by once in a while. We have some friends with a pecan orchard, so
nice.
We stay stocked on the pecan typically. All right, so Evan, what about your favorite?
My favorite, I am kind of a sucker for pulled pork. I'd say I eat probably chicken the most, but pulled pork, it really hits the street because I love ribs, but they're they're so, there's just a lot. There's just a lot there, and I feel pulled pork is just and for me it's just a pulled pork sandwich really hits the spot.
We need to. We'll send you some of our Sugar Taylor sauce. It's actually orange too. It's a mustard and vinegar based sauce, so it would kind of fit with the palate there, but it also goes by the kind of fits with the color, and it's great on pulled pork. It's got mustard and vinegar, so it's a little bit.
I'm gonna make a little. One of the things I've done. Well, sometimes I make a grit bowl with barbecue on top, or last time we had pulled pork, I took some cornbread and split it open and just used it as the base. It's kind of they didn't have any bread left, so I was like, well, this is kind of like an open faced sandwich.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right. So
what's your favorite? It's not fair to ask us.
Oh,
you better answer well because I know some people from the South, so you better answer well.
So I bounce back and forth, but I have a 15-pound brisket that'll hit the smoker here pretty soon, and that is one of my favorites if it's done well. Not to be confused with well done because you're smoking, but I love brisket. I love hanger steak is probably my favorite steak if you can find it. It's a little less per cow of hangers are harder to find. But those are a couple of my favorites. All right, I was going to ask y'all, and look, we're gonna disallow family meals from this discussion. But most memorable meal of your life, because I don't want you to say something other than your wife's cooking and get, I don't want anybody to get upset here. But a meal outside of your own home that has been one of the most memorable of your life.
Oh my gosh!
And it can't involve you cooking it yourself?
Well, Torb has had fried bee larvae. Maybe that would be it.
In Western China, I had fried bee larvae. Oh, that was good.
That is a hard question. My memory's not good enough to really remember. I have pandemic brain. I can't remember farther than March.
But I can tell you the meal that I comment about the most is Katie grew up in Bloomington, Indiana, eating fish sticks, and I grew up outside of Boston eating fish, really good fish. And we went back east. We were dating. We went to Cape Cod, and I went down to Provincetown. And I got some fresh tuna steaks, and I cooked it over a wood fire. And Katie said, "Ooh, this is really good. It doesn't taste like fish."
This is the problem when a New Englander marries a Midwesterner.
The oysters, you're like, these oysters, they're, they didn't have to get shipped and frozen and all these other things happen to them.
I just remember one of the first times I met his family and they were having steamed clams and digging. The whole thing to me was just so gross.
It was so good.
That is really awesome. Well, you guys have been a lot of fun visiting with tonight. I want to thank y'all for joining us. Tell folks how they can find out more about your products. And I know y'all are on Amazon now. I know Fine Family Farms Farm Club members get a special deal if you're a member as well. But Evan, maybe wrap us up with how to find you all.
I'm trying to do my best Vanna White here. Yes, Professor Torbert's Orange Corn Grits are available on Amazon in a 2-pound bag as well as a 4-pack of 1-pound bags. And then we also recently launched the 4-pack, which includes the corn flour. That's great for making grits, cornbread, breadings, hush puppies. Really, anything you can make with corn, you can probably make with that mixed pack. Just search Professor Torbert's on Amazon. You can visit us on the web at professortorberts.com. We are also very active on Instagram. We collaborate with a lot of chefs. So if you're looking for culinary inspiration, you should give us a follow. And that's at Professor_Torberts. We're also on Facebook if you want to like our page or follow us and get updates.
So Evan, where do they get recipes?
Well, we're about to launch a new website, and there is going to be an entire section of recipes. So we've got quite a few recipes under development. We got some videos, recipe videos under development. So there's going to be a lot of good culinary content coming out.
And that's at the ProfessorTorberts.com.
That's ProfessorTorberts.com. That's the current site doesn't have recipes on it yet, but we're getting ready to launch a new, completely revamped website.
And are we getting some Mama Torbert recipes then? All?
Yeah, I think. Do they still have the Facebook recipe group up?
Oh yeah, we have a recipe group, which we probably need to do some more stuff with. But I call it my mom's fan club. This is basically my mom posting what she makes with orange corn, and all of her friends oohing and eyeing and commenting on it. But we're
Andy, because even my friends from high school who live in southern Indiana posted spoon bread, and people really get into posting their recipes. They're not professional, but it is fun. And for a while, I was trying to invent things. So some of those are on there.
That's awesome. That's really fun, and I think that's what kind of brings everybody together, and that's why we love food so much. Is because it doesn't matter what color you are, where you worship, all those things. We all have to eat, and good food is something that unites us all. And even if you're a Yankee or a Southerner or somewhere in between,
Hoosier.
Massachusetts, I did not hear any Pak de Ka, any of that. So I feel like he's kind of maybe.
He's been a Midwesterner now for 35 years. So when I first met him, I was like, why are you such a food snob? Because he would be insulting, like his classic comment, there are no good donuts in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, it was true.
So I had to go after him, and it hasn't changed since.
It was true.
When we were doing a little Professor Torbert's in New England, we just called the grits polenta, and then people bought 100 bags, but because they just really know what grits were. Even though it said grits on the bag, we were saying this is really just like polenta. So
the reverse of that is true too. I have a friend that had this incredible polenta dish in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and he was not selling it. Well, he changed the name to grits. The recipe, everything's exactly the same. He just called it grits. Started selling like hotcakes. And so it is funny. There's that little bit of marketing and comfort makes you go, oh, okay, I feel good about that.
Well, I don't think I ever ate grits before these guys started selling them, to be honest. So I've had to up my game.
Well, you guys are really onto something, and I love how much fun you guys seem to be having with all this. And Katie, you keep them straight, okay?
I will.
I know. I can tell you definitely got your hands full.
And I think
that is true.
Orange grits and brisket is going to be a new really good combo.
I really think taking some burnt ends and kind of putting them on top of that bowl of grits and just kind of giving it a little half stir, maybe with some sour cream on there, is probably a winner.
Interesting.
I made some fried fish with jerk's seasoning and some Professor Torbert's flour and the grits, and then just a little bit of flour, and the professor loved it.
Well, and we had a neighbor, and he had a restaurant in Florida, and he used the corn flour I don't know if it was also corn grits, but for his batter for deep frying, and he found you deep fat fry some pork, and it's crisp when it comes out, but it gets soft pretty quick. With the corn flour based batter, it stayed crisp much longer.
Yeah, I've heard that with like a lot of gluten, like so rice flour is very similar. It holds longer, and corn flour and cornmeal does the same thing. I think that's a lot of chefs are kind of figuring that out and really gravitating towards. Some of them are even mixing corn and rice flour to get kind of this perfect little coating on things. So
no, they should mix orange corn flour with orange corn grits to make it perfect. None of this wheat or rice. No, just corn.
grind it fine. So, and do y'all have a quick aside? So, is the same mill just grinding things, but the finer flour and then the grit?
So basically, the reason why we have these two products is because when you mill the grits, so basically, with corn, you have hard starch and you have soft starch. And so when you mill it, the hard starch becomes the grits and the soft starch becomes the flour. So these are the two things that come off the mill when we mill for grits. And so in order to do cornmeal, we'll have to do a separate sort of setting on the mill and things like that. And so so they're basically these are the two different fractions that are coming off of when you grind up the kernel.
Very cool. Well, it's been a real treat to visit with you guys. Thanks so much for everything, and we look forward to see. I'd love to come see you guys in person or get you if you come down all the way down here south. We'd love to. We'll smoke a brisket and cook some grits.
There you go.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having us. It was fun.
All right. Thank y'all. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to remind our viewers, this EATYALL Live is brought to you by the Farm Club at FineFamilyFarms.com. We have added more than 30 new farms, now serving over 36 states. And we have dozens of offerings and special pricing, exclusive discounts for your Farm Club members, like 10 to 20% off meat, seafood, rice, artisan cheese, pantry items, and more. You can join for, get this, $29. So start saving today. Go to FineFamilyFarms.com/join. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for supporting all these farms that we work with and that we love so much.